Hello, hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my fellow hotel guest,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And today we'll be reviewing Bad Times at the El Royale. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. It's great to have you here. We like to review movies. For those of you that have been on this journey with us, welcome back. We'll never spoil anything for, let's call it, the first 10, 15 minutes. Then we're going to give you a spoiler-free review from 0 to 5. Then we'll give you some background on the movie, and then we'll start getting into our play-by-play where we break down some scenes and really talk through the whole entire movie. But again, if you haven't seen this movie yet, don't fret. We're about to tell you what we think about it. Mike, 0 to 5, what do you think?
This is a 4 for me.
A 4 for you, absolutely.
Yeah, I really loved it. It was like very reminiscent of like we said, the Hateful Eight, Identity, like very like what is it, Tarantino and Coen brothers, just like an ensemble cast. Like the performances were great, the cinematography was great. I really loved how like it stuck to the time period. Like it didn't really take you out of it.
Yeah,
I think it's a hotel, and they really utilized the benefits of being in a hotel, like in a hotel, like a motel setting.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't think you were ever lost as far as like where everybody was at the time. It was like interesting to go back because it doesn't tell a linear story, but for the most part, you're never lost.
Yeah, for sure.
With what you're seeing at any point in time. I don't know. It was just like the story was great. The performances were great. The characters were just very intriguing. Like I think it was like a very small cast. You're talking about like 6, 7 tops.
Yeah,
or something
I think so,
like that.
Yeah.
But it was just like every single person was just interesting. It was. I think I love Chris Hemsworth. Like he looked like he was having a ball. I know he's had a lot of fun doing like the Thor movies, especially like later on with Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. But like you can tell he loved playing this character. Like he really hammed it up. It was really campy, but it was perfect for this film. Cynthia Erivo was just amazing. It was also amazing to hear her voice. Yeah. I don't get to see too many movies like where she gets to sing. Fucking Jeff Bridges, like
Jeff Bridges
playing another Flynn. This guy can't get.
It's who he is, Flynn.
But yeah, it was just like I don't know. This entire movie was just great to me. I know it's like an indie darling, I guess, and I guess that's what I'm drawn to.
Okay,
like. I guess I love this. I can get into the spectacle of like the MCUs and like a lot of action films, but I think I've been watching a lot of stuff recently with like directors talking about what really draws people to film, and it's character development and story. And I like we've always talked about it. It's like I'm drawn to story always, and then intriguing characters is just like an icing on that cake. So it was like I really loved how these characters developed. Like they didn't. It's like very much like Lost, which is interesting because the director like wrote for Lost.
Oh,
so it's just like you could see he didn't give you all the information right away. It was given to it like sparingly, but it wasn't like Jesus Christ, like what's going on?
No, you knew what was going
on.
Yeah,
it was just like I think the pacing was great. Some people had issues with the pacing when I was like reviewing certain things, but I think it flowed fairly well. And then, like, when Chris Hemsworth just comes on screen in Act 3.
Shoulder thing. Yeah.
Dude, he gave me, like, the Joker, which is... the Joker has always been funny to me in, like, Batman lore because it's, like, he's silly as shit. He got makeup on. But, like, a Heath Ledger or, like, a Joaquin Phoenix playing these characters, like, oh, no, this is not for play.
Yeah.
And that's what Chris Hemsworth was. It was, like, you think he's just, free-loving and all this stuff, but it was, like, no, there's a sinisterness behind this character. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film. It was nice to revisit it. I hadn't seen it since maybe like 2020 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a 4 for me. It's a phenomenal film.
Nice. Great. Let's see. Bad Times at the El Royale. I'm going to give it a 3.5. We'll see. I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was really good. I also really like stories where it is like that kind of ensemble cast of, without spoiling anything, you have 7 people who go in. They all have different reasons for being at this hotel. There's a through line, which is connecting everybody. And then we see what that is. This one felt even a little bit more chaotic and bordering on maybe slightly random of that through line of like, what is going on in the climax of this film and why is that happening? Was like, okay, this is why that's happening. Interesting. And like, I really enjoyed, like, let's go back for a second. All the performances I think were great. I agree. Like actually having Cynthia Erivo,
Mhm.
like having her sing was a phenomenal choice
Yeah.
by them, considering she's won a billion awards for singing.
Yeah.
So utilize her voice as even like the soundtrack for some of these scenes. Haunting. Yeah, that was really cool that they were able to do that. Jeff Bridges is always going to be great. He's Jeff Bridges, man. And I think and I really like John Hamm as well. So seeing John Hamm go through was really great.
You know what's interesting about John Hamm? Since I never watched Mad Men,
Mm-hmm.
I've learned about maybe John Hamm from like fucking what is it? The Tina Fey, not Tina Fey. Yeah, Bridesmaids.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah,
so it's just like I'm learning after he's already been like blown up from the Mad Men stuff. So it's like it's more comedic stuff. It was even with this one, it was just like, oh, he's too high profile. That's why. That's why he plays this character type of thing. So it's like I was late to the John Hamm hype. Still love him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like very late to that hype.
For sure. No, yeah. And so I think all performances are really solid here. Is really the story and like that chaoticness. Definitely this movie's a bit of a fever dream, but you get that from these kinds of stories like all the time. Like you think like Hateful Eight. Like there's definitely some similarities between this movie and Hateful Eight, or like that method of storytelling. Everyone has a different reason for being at this central location. How are they now going to interact with one another, and what's going to happen from there? Those stories are a lot of fun. I would love to try to make one of those stories myself. I just found this one, maybe if they fleshed more stuff out, I would have loved to see more Hemsworth, and what's going on with that background. Because all of a sudden you get that reveal, and I guess slight spoiler, it's a cult.
Yeah.
When you get that of what, like at the end, you're like, this is a cult, and this is going on. I was like, where the hell did that come from? I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting so much more, really, from Jeff Bridges' character Doc. For that story being the through line here. But no, it's a very entertaining movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I'd say, definitely go see it.
What'd you give it?
3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3.5. So 3.5. That's a very solid movie, just with maybe some slight, things that I didn't love about it. But 3.5 is a very good movie. But yeah, all right, let's get into some background on this movie. So it came out when again?
2018. Okay. So Bad Times at the El Royale came out October 12th, 2018. The runtime is 2 hours and 21 minutes.
Which, a quick time, it did not feel like, I don't think it felt long. I agree with that, like from a pacing perspective.
Because honestly, the conclusion, that Act 3 kind of felt rushed.
Oh, yeah.
If anything.
Exactly. And maybe that was part of it, too.
Yeah. I think that leads to that chaos. Yeah. There was a bit of chaos in the Act 2-ish, I guess. But yeah, Act 3 was like nothing but chaos. So I can see it being like a runaway train. Yeah. Like, and you're just getting a lot of information very quickly and then quickly resolved type of thing. So I can agree with that.
Yeah. So I think maybe that was my tweak or difference that's kind of stopping me from having a 4 with it, but still good movie. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh yeah. So the budget was $32 million. The box office actually was only $31.1 million. So
almost there.
Almost. Like I said, I was saying earlier, it was like me trying to gauge the success of a film. I'm not surprised this one didn't do phenomenally well. Yeah. Even though with like Hemsworth, it's 2018, so that's. I mean, he's already playing Thor.
He's been Thor for 5 years there or something like that.
Well,
6.
Yeah, at least. So it's just like
7.
Well, no, so at least 2010, 2011. So.
Yeah, I think it was like 2011, 2012. But yeah.
But yeah, so I was surprised it didn't get more eyes on it. But with the way the story was told, I guess you can see why. Yeah. Rotten Tomato score is 75 for critics and a 75 for audience. Cool. So fairly light. Yeah. The genre is crime, drama, mystery, thriller. The director is Drew Goddard, who had previously directed Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, nice! I love Cabin in the Woods.
And then his fucking writing resume is insane. So for movies, he wrote for Cloverfield, World War Z, and The Martian. Okay. And then for TV, he did Buffy, Angel, Alias, Lost, the Marvel's Daredevil show on Netflix, the Defender show. Like, that's fucking insane. Yeah, like, his pen is wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think you can see those elements of like his writing and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's also, I was watching something, it was like, so Cabin in the Woods is the only other film he directed outside of this one. Okay. Everything else, there was other cooks in the kitchen.
Got you. Yeah.
So like with the two he was like the one behind the camera, you can see those influence. But did Cabin in the Woods do well? I feel like that was another flop.
I don't remember how it did when it came out, but I know now, at least in the circle.
Yeah, it's like a cult following.
Cult following, really enjoyed it. And I think it is. Cabin in the Woods is a great movie.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the director. The cast is Jeff Bridges as Father Daniel Flynn, Cynthia Erivo as Darlene, John Hamm as Sullivan, Dakota Johnson as Emily, Callie Spaney as Rose, Lewis Pullman as Miles, Chris Hemsworth as Billy Lee, and Nick Offerman as Felix. And then the tagline is 7 strangers, 7 secrets, all roads lead here.
Who was Felix?
The guy in the beginning.
Oh, yes. Okay, got you. Yeah.
You didn't
okay.
give it. You didn't. So like in
Yeah.
that opening scene, you didn't get to see his face.
Yes. Yeah.
But,
Okay. Yeah. And then you saw that briefly.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. I was like, who the hell is Felix? I just watched this movie. But cool. All right. Thank you, Mike. So before we get into our spoiler territory, quick word from our sponsors. Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Edward Hunt. I'm on the Just Be team with Compass Real Estate here in the DMV. That's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we're all about finding you where you're meant to be. Also, it's much more than that, too. If you need a phenomenal handyman or contractor, you need a lender or an estate attorney, or you want advice on the market, feel free to reach out anytime, and I can connect you with the right people and give you that advice. Also, a great thing with Compass is we are nationwide. So no matter where you are in America, I can find you an expert. Also, Edward Hunt of Hunt Comics. I have Evil as a Weapon issue 1. Amazon. It's on Amazon. It's on Global Comics. We're hard at work on issue 2. I would love for you to check it out. Cool. All right, let's get started. So spoiler territory now. So if you haven't seen this movie yet and you want to, honestly, I'd say see this without knowing the spoilers. So if you want to see this movie based on the 4 and a 3.5, pause this now. That makes you come back because I'd say this makes more sense that way. But how does it start? What's going on?
So just a quick opening. You see Felix. He arrives at a hotel room. You don't know exactly where he is. It's an interesting shot, though, how they do it.
Yeah.
And then so he arrives at the hotel room. He like unpacks his bag and then he immediately starts ripping up the carpet and then undoing the floorboards underneath the carpet and leaving a bag. Yeah. And then like just undoing, what he did so to make it look regular. And then after he's buried this bag, he just sits there and he waits. Yeah. And you see him like literally, he's like laying on the bed, sitting on a chair, just like it's just a montage of him just sitting waiting.
Yeah. Well, he even goes outside in the rain at one point in time, like stands in the rain at one point. It was a really cool opening sequence, this whole entire thing.
Because it's just like the camera is stationary and you just see the character.
Yes. Moving through it. You see the room and then he's just going throughout the room interacting with
very much like it gave me like hamster in a hamster in a cage or something.
Yeah, it felt claustrophobic. Yeah. Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah. And so after a while, like you said, he goes out, he comes back in, he's still waiting. He hears a knock on the door. He opens the door, turns his back, and as he's walking in, he gets shot in the back.
Immediately, yeah.
And then it just screen cuts the black.
Yep. As opening sequences go of a way to introduce you to this movie, awesome. Yeah. Phenomenal of this, like, okay, we kind of know what we're in for now, just solely from that scene. But yeah.
And then we jump to 10 years later, and we see Darlene arriving at the El Royale. And so she parks, she goes to her trunk and like pulls out these like bedding. Yeah. You see her holding this bedding. And then like as she's about to walk into the hotel, you see her looking at Father Flynn. And he's kind of standing outside of 2 of the rooms or like some of the rooms at the hotel. And he's like kind of looking at 2 or 3 of them. And you can see he's a little bit lost. And so like she calls him, they have a quick exchange where he says, because you see the benefit, like the gimmick of the hotel is the fact that it was built on the state line between California and Nevada. Yeah. And so Darlene makes a comment about how like she's never been to Nevada because that's where Father Flynn is standing. Yeah. And they have kind of back and forth. It was very sweet. It was just like how's
how's the weather in California? Yeah. What's it like in Nevada? Yeah. And that line is right there in between.
So it's like just a sweet exchange between them. They he offers to help her with her bedding or whatever, and then they go into the hotel, and like they're just taking a look around, and then like they immediately get introduced to John Hamm's character Sullivan.
Yes. And vacuum salesman.
Yeah, and he's like behind the bar, like making coffee because he says he was trying to summon the door, like I guess the concierge. Sorry. Yeah. But nobody is showing up, and so like you see immediately as you meet John Hamm, he's just quick talking salesman. He's just like constantly his motor mouth.
Yeah, the whole time, very much.
He hands his card to Father Flynn, and he hands it to Darlene, and she says, I'm sure you know a bunch of ladies who would need a vacuum or something like that. Like very a condescending type of thing. Definitely. So it's like immediately Darlene is just not feeling it.
No, never mind. Yeah.
And so like he offers them coffee because it's made or whatever. And then also as he's giving his whole spiel, he gives them kind of the lowdown of the hotel because this is Darlene's first time.
Yeah.
And so he's saying how like, yeah, obviously the hotel was split between California and Nevada. It used to be like a big attraction a few years prior, but he mentioned before the election or something like that.
Yeah, and then like before the election, they lost its gambling license.
It had lost its gambling license, so like that there went the draw of the hotel. And so like he offers them all coffee or whatever. And then like as he continues talking, once again, Darlene's not feeling him. So like they go to like ring the little bell to summon the concierge. It's not working. And Darlene is like, oh, fuck this guy. I do not like him. So she just bangs on the door. Like so she steps behind the counter.
Anything to end the situation.
Yeah. And she hears somebody move and it was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And so shortly after we meet Miles, the concierge, who's like really disheveled, like putting on his blazer.
Yeah.
And like so he welcomes them, gives them the intro to the El Royale.
Yeah.
Saying that, obviously you can see the wonders of the California side or the land of hope or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's experience the warmth of California or hope and like goal setting or whatever.
And it's very much, you'll see this later in the film, but it's very much like this being split between the two states is like picking a side.
Yeah.
Good and bad or whatever. So it's like California is that like that devil and Nevada is the angel, I guess, in a way. So
I didn't really notice.
You see it like there's a through line a little bit later with like some of Billy Lee's with his the monologue that he gives Rose a little bit later. Yeah, but there's this. And I think it's symbolism, but it's nice because of the fact that, like, especially with writing now, it's like, oh, they need to spoon feed it to you. Yeah. But this one, it was just like kind of there.
Yeah, interesting because the decor was very different on both sides. They, different setups. California rooms were $1 more.
California's $1 more. It was like you can't drink in Nevada.
Yeah, but if you stay in Nevada, you can still use all the California amenities and all that stuff. Yeah.
So it is very much there is a distinction between the two.
Yeah,
and then like in a broader sense of the film, and it's just like it is the good. It's picking a side. Yeah, and so so we get so we get an introduction to the hotel.
Yeah, and the big thing, the whole thing with Sullivan, John Hamm's character, he's like, y'all can stay wherever you want, but I get the presidential or the.
Well, he was like, I was here first, so I should be like. He lets them all go check in first. Yeah, but he like stakes his claim to the fact that he wants the honeymoon suite.
He's like, this is what I want. My vacuum company's paying for it. I'm gonna live at large on them. I get the honeymoon suite.
And so first, Father Flynn asked for a map or whatever, and he's just like, he's looking at the map. I think there's only about 8 rooms, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, because they only have like the main lodge
area available. So there's about 8 rooms available, and he's like choosing between room 4 or 5, and Sullivan just gives him a quarter to like kind of flip or whatever. So he chooses room 4 and he gets his key. Room 4 is in Nevada. I think most of the rooms are in Nevada except for the honeymoon suite.
Okay.
That's in California. I wasn't sure if that was interesting, but it was something I noted. Sorry, not that it was interesting, something that was vital.
Okay.
But it was something I noted. But yeah, so Father Flynn gets room number 4. Then Darlene goes up and she was like, she wanted a room far away from the father, but she didn't want. She wanted to be polite because it was like it wasn't like he was mean or anything like that. But it's because of the fact that she doesn't want to disturb her neighbors. Yeah. But fucking Sullivan says like just very blatantly like she doesn't want to stay next to the priest. Like, Jesus Christ, they have some goddamn decor.
No, that's not what he is. That's not who Sullivan is to do. Yeah.
But because of the fact that Miles is the concierge and also the cleaning person. Like he's the only staff member, really. Yeah. So like a lot of the rooms haven't been cleaned yet. So the only ones that are available, it's a very few that are actually available. Yeah. And so like she gets room 5, which is right next to Father Flynn. And then as she's checking in, we get another person like just rip roaring through the I guess the parking lot. And then we meet Emily. Yes. Dakota Johnson's character, excuse me. And she comes in, and so the first 2 people are already checked in room 4 and room 5. And Emily, Sullivan also lets her check in before him.
But he lets her check in, but it's very like he's just against everybody for the most part. Yeah. Except for Father Flynn, who even him, he was like, we may disagree. I may hate your Pope, but we're all followers of Jesus, so it's fine. But he just picks fights with everybody pretty much. Yeah.
And so he lets Emily check in, and first she wants the
Yeah, the honeymoon suite.
The honeymoon
Yeah,
suite,
yeah.
sorry. But he was like, you got to be fucking
Yeah,
kidding
he's
me.
like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You not see this? I'm here first. And even calls her like a stupid hippie or something
Yeah,
like that.
basically.
I'm like, damn. Yeah.
And so like she selects room 7, and he asked everybody to sign into the guest book.
Yeah.
And she writes, fuck you.
Yes.
As she writes. Also, something to note before, just to really, it's something really quick. When Miles sees Father Flynn,
Yes.
he's like really surprised. He's like,
yeah.
There's better places than where I can find you somewhere.
Yeah,
better
a
lodging.
priest shouldn't stay here.
Yeah.
This is not a place for a priest. I can find you anywhere else, but don't stay here.
Mm-hmm.
It was really odd.
Yeah. And so Emily's just checked in, and then finally Sullivan checks into the honeymoon suite.
Yeah.
And so it's like now we get all 4 of our main characters checked into their rooms. And then this is where it starts to break out into kind of chapters. Yes. Very much like The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So we jump to room 1, Sullivan. So he checks into the room, and he immediately gets on the phone, I assume with like his wife. He talks to his wife, talks to his daughter, and he's like having a conversation with her. But as he's having this conversation, he's checking the phone for bugs.
Yeah.
So first what happens is he unlocks his trunk. That has a vacuum in there, but it was like there's a secret compartment. And he has a briefcase. So clearly he's working for the FBI.
Yeah. This was such a cool twist.
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting Sullivan at all. I was like, yeah, he's a fast talking vacuum salesman and a dick.
And I think that's what was interesting because like as you said, like he's picking fights or whatever. I think the reason why he let everyone go first because he was trying to gauge these people. And the best way to do it was to kind of just like sit back.
Yeah.
But also like kind of hide in plain sight.
Exactly. And I think also like know where they are, know what's going on with them, where are they in this hotel, etc. And just to see that switch in him, like immediately, like as soon as he gets on, again, he's on like the phone with his daughter and they're doing like the Lord's Prayer before his bed. And he's like checking all the wires and stuff. And I was like, but even as soon as he opens his briefcase and it's like all those tools are in it, I was like, what the hell's going on here? It was fascinating. It was so cool. Yeah. Just to,
a nice twist.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice.
But so he's there. He's looking for bugs. First he looks in the phone. Yeah. And so he finds the one he's looking for, but then he keeps looking. He finds another. Yeah. And then so he starts going through the room and he's placing the FBI's wire and then a third party's wire. And he's like very confused. And then he goes outside, and he kind of takes a look in the parking lot first, and then he goes back into the main lobby.
Well, because he counts his steps. It was something he counted his steps across the room. So step. Yeah, because as Jackson, you said, I didn't realize it was an FBI wire and the mystery wire. Yeah. So as soon as he sees that, he knows something's going on. So
he's going through the room, grabbing the wires that he's supposed, because clearly he's there for a retreat.
Yes. Yeah. And then he takes steps in the room, and then when he goes up to the parking lot and then takes the same number of steps, you can see him counting. He counts those steps, and he's like, why all of a sudden I counted these steps? Am I now past this point? Showing that the room he's in isn't as big as the number of steps that it should be, which means there's some kind of secret area.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he knew there was some kind of secret area with it when
that's dope. This is subtleness of it.
Oh my god, that was such a cool. Everything with John Hamm, Sullivan's character, and the FBI part, I thought was fascinating.
That's really cool, interesting. I'm glad that you picked up on that.
Yeah. So and then as you said, he goes to the lobby.
He goes to the lobby. And so he's trying to look further around. So he takes the master key from behind the counter. Yeah. He goes into a door that's behind the counter, and we see immediately there's a door with Miles, and he's strung out. So he's clearly I think a heroin.
Yeah, he's doing heroin. Yeah, he's got the whole wire, the cord on it, and I think the fucking needle's still in his arm.
The needle was still in his arm. So Miles is strung out, and so Sullivan keeps walking down this corridor, and he sees another door, and he breaks into the door. Yeah. Goes further down to another corridor, and we see that there's just a hallway. Yes. Yeah. And this is where you're talking about why the rooms are a little bit smaller than they would assume, because of the fact that behind every mirror in every room, it's like a two-way mirror. Yeah. And there's a walkway for someone to peer into the rooms. There's also a device where you can hit it, you can hear the audio as well. Yeah. And then there's a camera setup that can roll from room to record.
And they record everything. Yeah.
And so he's like, holy shit, what the fuck? So he goes, and then this is what's interesting. This is why it's an interesting way to introduce what's going on in each room.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than like the movie doing it, it's like you see it from a character's perspective.
Yeah.
And so like as he's walking down this corridor, peering into each of the rooms, he looks into room number 4 with Father Flynn, and he's ripping up the carpet and the floorboards.
Yeah,
so it was like, now, I mean, as an audience, we're like, oh, he's there for whatever was left in the beginning.
Exactly.
In the intro.
Yeah.
He goes to room number 5 in Darlene's room. We see that the bedding that she had, she's padding the walls because she's singing. She's a singer and she needs to practice. She doesn't want to disrupt her neighbors.
Yeah. And this was really cool because, too, it's like she's just sitting staring at the mirror. And it's kind of like that little jumper. And he's like, what the hell? But then, then he flips the switch and then we hear her sing. And and that's what I was talking, even in like this review part of like, so after he sees Father Flynn, then we start hearing Darlene sing.
Yeah, because he flips it on and then he continues walking. And so like you can still hear her voice in the corridor.
Which was so good. Yeah, that was such a good, piece that they had there. Yeah.
And then so room 6 is vacant. He goes to room 7. The door is open. And we see Darlene dragging a girl from like that was in the trunk. Yeah. And so she drags a girl into the room, ties her to a chair. And then we see that she has like a bag of like there was a gun on the dresser.
Yeah.
Before she even came back into the room. So he's like really alarmed by this. Like, the fuck is going on? And then he goes down further to room number 8, and there's a camera set up, and you can see it's literally on a tract where you can just pull it down and position it at each window. So like he goes outside after seeing this. He shuts off the audio for Darlene's room. He's a little perturbed by what he saw in room number 7. Yeah. And then he goes outside and he makes a call and this is where you find out he's with the FBI. Because obviously he was a part of some government.
Yeah, there was something going on here for sure.
And then he says, I need to talk to Hoover.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it cuts to black. And then like I think it jumps to Darlene.
Okay. Yeah.
She's singing and she gets a knock on the door, and it's Father Flynn. And he's like, I'm going to the lobby to get some food. Would you like to join her? Initially, she's like, no. And then he's like, he's just not pushy, but he's like, it's on me. Yeah. Or whatever.
And he's a priest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it seems trustworthy for all of this.
Also, quick jump back. I don't know if it matters. Yeah. But when they're checking in, they have to pay, I think it's $8. Is $7 or $8?
Something.
It's $8 for the rooms. Okay. Yeah. For the night. For at least for Nevada, and there's also 25 cents for the coffee. And so, since Homeboy forced them all to have coffee, they all had to pay. Yeah, and Flynn is the one that gave Darlene her quarter for the coffee.
Yes,
so I guess he's just trying to like, not like there's a certain like warmth he has with, or a kindness he has with her.
Yeah, definitely. From the get go, it's kind of like they are like, from the the interaction in the parking lot, everything. It's like, all right, if anyone, these two are like, they're not together because they came separate, but now they're kind of like forming and bonding.
And so they bond a bit. They go to the lobby. They're like, so like all of the food in the vending machine seem like the sandwiches and stuff seem very much expired.
Yeah, like
so like they just settle on some pie. Yeah. And then Father Flynn makes himself a drink. I think he said hot toddy or something like that.
It's a hot rum or hot whiskey.
Yeah. So like he says, I'll get the food, you handle the music. Yeah. So she puts on some music and they sit and like get to know one another. And he's saying how like he's from Indiana or whatever. His mind is going a bit, and that's why you saw it in the beginning when he was looking at the rooms or whatever. Like he's just kind of lost.
Yep. Yeah.
Like there's bouts where he just gets lost, doesn't know where he is, doesn't know who he is, and so he kind of apologizes to her for that. Because I mean, it's just embarrassing for him.
For sure. I mean, it's embarrassing and horrifying. Like that's literally one of my biggest fears is like losing my mind like that just from getting dementia. That sounds so terrible. Yeah.
And then sorry.
And I think, while they're talking, he like gives her that. When does she like? It's around this time too, or maybe later.
It was a little bit earlier. You get her backstory a bit, where like, so she's she like we find out we know that she's a singer. Like she was in the studio, and like we find out she's getting paid like $12 per session or something like that. Yeah. When the producer is getting paid like $200 an hour, and he's like just very much bullying her, like saying that was like, I can make or break your career.
Yeah, he's like,
my
why
time
are you
is worth
flat
more
or
than
sharp
yours,
right now? Yeah.
and something like that. So she's heading to, and she tells, we find this from her telling Flynn
Yeah.
that she's heading to Reno to do a show.
I'll tell you, even the guy himself is like, I can make it so you can never perform any music except Reno, blah, blah, blah. And then where is she going? She's going to Reno. So it looks like he did kind of like sabotage her a little bit, or she couldn't perform how he wanted, even though she's a lovely singer. Yeah.
And so, they have, a nice back and forth learning about like her singing in churches and stuff like that. And what happens? I think
he goes to get another drink.
And then he also mentions his brother. He's the reason why he's in Nevada was to visit his brother. And then like on his way back, because of the weather or something like that, he just needed to make a stop.
Yeah.
And then, so after that, he's finished his drink. The music is continuing. Like she's kind of jabbing at him because like he doesn't know
nothing about music.
And we'll figure out later why. And then he goes to make another drink and he offers her one.
Yeah.
And so like,
and she finally says yes. She says no for all this time. She's like, all right, fine, I can have one drink. Yeah.
And then like, so he goes to make her a drink, and we see as the audience, as he's making a drink, he kind of pours something into hers. And then like before he can even turn around, she's there and she just knocks him over the head with a champagne glass.
Yeah, or with a bottle. It's a bottle. Like
champagne bottle, sorry.
Yeah, like a wine bottle, whatever. Just boom, shatters on his head. He
knocks him out.
Yeah.
And then we jump back to, this is where we jump back to Sullivan.
Yes.
He's on the call with, just reporting back to the FBI, saying he found the bugs that he was supposed to retrieve, but he also found another set.
Yes.
So clearly there's a third party.
Something's going on.
Also recording here as well. And when Hoover tells him to make sure nobody leaves until we figure out that you retrieve all of the bugs, or at least our bugs.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about the other set? And then he also mentions that there's a possible hostage situation with Emily and the girl in the kidnapping. And Hoover's like, I don't like to repeat myself, but do not interfere. That has nothing to do with
to do with the FBI and us right now. Don't do it.
And so shortly after that call, we see Sullivan going to each of the cars and I guess pulling out the
spark plug or something. I don't know enough about that.
Yeah, I was about to say
car doohickeys.
It's also it's 1969.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit important later.
So I guess it probably is spark because it is something he can just tool out, then they put him back in later. Yes.
And so he's just basically disabling all the cars so nobody can leave. And then as he's about to go back into his room, he goes back into his room, but he was like, something is bothering him. Yeah. So he goes to check on room number 7.
Yep. So which is interesting. So it's like he's for the FBI, and there's definitely a lot of negativity about the FBI in this whole in this movie and in general.
Yeah.
But he himself, even though he was that fast talking asshole as a vacuum salesman, he himself is not a bad person.
Yes.
He sees something.
And you see that it was just he was told not to interfere, but he
can't help it.
Obviously he's a father, he's a family man outside of his government job. So it's something in him. He can't not do something.
Yep, exactly.
And so he goes and knocks on room number 7. And this is where we get a quick jump into the room before he arrives. And it was just Emily, it's her sister that she has bound and gag, not gag, but it was actually she was
she was gag. Yeah, she had a thing.
And it's her younger sister, and you could tell she's basically taking her from somewhere.
Yeah.
We get a brief glimpse of them, their childhood. So it's her father was very abusive,
a drunk, abusive asshole.
So it was just she was always protecting. She was always protecting her younger sisters, as older siblings do.
Yeah, because it was very much when I think this also speaks a little bit to Rose, right? That's her sister's name. Yeah, so a character, because the father is drunk and punches Emily and on the ground. He's like, yeah, make sure you don't clean that up so you're bleeding. Now, where's your sister?
Yeah.
And then Emily's like, oh shit, I got to hide Rose.
Yeah.
So, you don't see anything. There's protecting this. But that, unfortunately, the father was probably molesting the daughter. And that was kind of the vibes it gave me from it, which then even explains a little bit more about, Rose later in the movie too. But, we can get that.
And then we also get a brief introduction to Billy Lee, the character. So we see Rose sitting on the beach by herself. There's huge army.
Yeah, I think she was in the military, I guess. Or
I don't know if she was in the military. I assume they had run away or something.
Yeah.
And she gets introduced to Billy Lee, and he comes up to her, has a brief chat, and then he just strips naked and goes into the
goes
water
in the ocean,
and offers her to join.
And it's very ethereal, it's super bright.
Yeah,
everything, you can barely see Billy Lee because the sun's so bright. So it's kind of this almost fantasy-esque sequence.
It's a deity in a way.
Yeah,
because he definitely, at one point says, "We are our own gods."
Yes.
So he definitely that's how he sees himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we get a brief backstory of them, just very, very brief.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, we get that knock on the door, and it's Sullivan.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, oh, ma'am, like, there might be something wrong with the car. Can you let me in?
Yeah.
And, like, so she opens the door a bit, but leaves the chain on.
No, that was Darlene did that for Father Flynn. She just keeps it completely closed.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. She just, Emily just completely leaves that closed and tells him to fuck off. Yeah.
And so, like, there's a brief second, and then like he just breaks into the door, knocks her out a bit, and then like disables Emily, and then goes to Rose to be like, "You're gonna be okay. I'm gonna get you out of here." And this is where you see that good guy, and he's not like some creeper or anything like that. He was like, he's just trying to protect this young girl.
He truly believes he's doing the right thing.
And as he's like as his back to Emily, she picks up a shotgun.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Rose, move out of the way."
And then Rose just quietly, complacently just moves out the way.
And then he's trying to like he's like, no, like don't do this or whatever. And this is where you get that flashback of her and her father.
Okay.
So you can definitely see like she's very protective of her sister, and she's like very wary of men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she just shoots him. And this is I think I didn't want to spoil it in the earlier, but it was just like maybe because of his fame at this time, it was like, oh yeah, they couldn't afford him the whole movie.
Yeah, that's right. You're like, that's all we're gonna get from John Hamm. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I was off that train because it was like he was not even an hour. I was just like, he had to get in, get out.
Like, oh man, it was like just shows no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
Because and then he's like, it was again very shocking out of everything with John Hamm in this movie was shocking and like really good. Every single thing, because I was like, there's no way they could just kill him. No, and she just fucking kills him. I was like, okay.
Well, because I think even at this point, you don't, as a audience, you don't really know what story is going on here.
Absolutely.
Like the dopest. Once again, you're just learning so much. Like you meet John, like once he gets to his room, you find out there's more to him than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And then like as he sees the other character, you see that Miles is a drug addict.
Yep.
You see that Father Flynn is tearing up his room. Fucking Emily has his kidnapped girl. So it's like each character has more, but you don't know where the story's going.
100%. You don't know. Yeah.
And so like this moment here was just like, holy, this switched it up a bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so like she shoots Sullivan, but he's near the mirror.
Yep.
And we as an audience know that it's a two-way mirror.
Yeah.
And because there's a hallway behind it. And so after she shoots him, the glass shatters. And then they start hearing somebody breathing.
Yes, through like because the
behind
you see
behind the mirror
there. Yeah,
and then this like you hear somebody just breathing as like she didn't just shoot Sullivan.
Yeah, something else happened to
him. And then we jump back to the lobby.
Yep.
And Miles is waking up the father after he was knocked out on the floor.
Yeah.
And so like he wakes him up and he's like just a bit disheveled. He was like, "Oh, I fell. I'm old." Like I'm just trying to play it off.
Yep.
But still not really not know. And this is what's interesting. He was like, he already has a bout of dementia. Then he got knocked out. So like he was really kind of disoriented in this moment.
Absolutely.
Waking up. And so like
he was like, "Was I alone?"
Was I alone? He was like, "Do you have a master key?" He asked him about the master key.
Yeah. And
he's like, because he's clearly like he wants the key for a reason. We don't know yet. But Miles is like, "Did you lose your key?" He was like, "Like I said, kid, I'm old."
I'm old. Yeah, I'm old.
So they go to the front desk or whatever, and like the master key is missing. We know because.
Yeah. Well, I think too. Right before this is, do they sit down and Miles is trying to confess to him as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So Miles is trying to confess, and Father Flynn's like, "I do not have time for this bullshit." Like, no, I don't.
He's like, "I just got there's blood on my head, kid."
Not now, kid.
But you could definitely see like Miles is from the moment he saw the father, he was just like his whole demeanor, like his demeanor, I guess, was just like, I have something to get off my chest. I have to tell you. Yeah. And so like they go to the front desk looking for the master key, but it's not there. And so like then they go into his like room, or whatever. Like they go behind the desk. They go into Miles's room, and the father initially sees like the drugs, and he's just like, "You're fine."
Yeah.
Like it's not that serious.
Yeah, exactly. It's just heroin, kid.
Yeah. And then like So he's like, "Where's the key?" Because Miles went into his room searching for the key.
Yeah, because he couldn't
the
find
master
the thing.
key.
Yep. Yeah.
And then Miles is like, "I told you shouldn't have stayed here, Father." So he
Mhm.
walks down the corridor
Mhm.
to the door that Sullivan had went into.
Yeah.
And then he shows the father the hallway behind the mirrors.
Quick time to is this around the time too when I think did Sullivan see the tape? The mystery
No,
tape.
Sullivan didn't know about the tape.
Okay, Sullivan didn't know about the tape.
No.
Okay, yeah. So Father Flynn, he sees the tape around this time too, doesn't he?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah.
So what happens is he as he's taking Father Flynn down the corridor, Father Flynn first sees room up for his room.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What did you see?"
Yeah, like, what, and
that's when he puts it. And he was like, "I didn't see anything." He was like, "I only." Damn it! I wrote it down in my other notebook, but he was like, "I only film what they tell me to, and then send it to them in a send it to them in a PO box."
Yeah, the owners.
The owners so the owners call them when there's a VIP or somebody of importance.
Yeah.
He films whatever they do in their room and then sends it off to them.
Yep.
And then he mentions that there was only Father Flynn was like, "Do you always send the tapes?" All this, and Miles mentioned that there was one guy that was nice to him, and nobody's ever nice to him in that hotel.
That's what it was.
And he was like, "That tape, I told them that there was nothing."
Got you.
And then that's when Father Flynn races back down the corridor to go to find the tape.
Yes.
And that's when he finds the tape, and you see it's like I guess what is that?
Film.
Yeah. So it's it hasn't been developed yet.
Yep. Yeah, like old school film, just real little, but if you look in, you can see.
Yeah, it's like the reels from So it's just he pulls it and he's looking at it, and he's like, you can tell he recognizes the person in the film.
Is that who I think it is?
Yeah. And so while he's in Miles's room, Miles is walking further down the corridor, and this is where he sees what's going on in room number 7 between Emily and Sullivan. So he's shouting for Father Flynn to come back down the hallway because he was like, the guy broke into the room, and then now he's about to get shot. And as Miles is standing behind the mirror, Father Flynn's like, move away from the mirror,
get away from
but it's too late. Emily shoots Sullivan, and then because Miles is standing behind the glass, he also gets hit.
He gets a buckshot to the face.
Yeah, and that's where you hear the person breathing. That was breathing. It's Miles who's been hit. Yeah, and so Miles kind of, after he's been shot, he looks at Father Flynn, who's a little bit further down the corridor or whatever. But Father Flynn was like, "Oh no!" So
nope,
he luckily runs down the hallway, and then Emily peeks behind the mirror, sees what's his name, Miles. Is like, what the fuck? Yeah, what? And then she points her gun down the hallway, but she doesn't see anybody else. Yeah, and so I think then we jump back to Darlene.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think this is where the storytelling was interesting because you just saw a bunch of different perspectives of the same thing, but you never were lost as to where you were.
I agree. Yeah.
So we jump back to Darlene. So she knocks out the father.
So now that we're in the scene, did Darlene actually see him drug her, or did she just fucking?
I think she just knew. I think she could tell that she knew that he wasn't a
something was wrong. Okay, got you. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what she says later. Yeah. She says, "You get shook enough to know somebody trying to shake you."
Yeah, exactly. So she never actually.
And that's when she just took a gamble. She was like, "Either I knocked out an innocent man or I knocked out a creep. Either way,
I'm okay. I'm safe." Which honestly, you can't really blame her for that.
Yeah, so it was you see, when she went behind him to go change the music, she took her shoes off, grabbed the bottle, and so that he knocked him out. Yeah. And then so she ran to her room. And as she's coming out, she sees Sullivan in the parking lot. Yeah. And she sees him tampering with all the cars. So when he goes back to his room, she goes to her car, sees that it's not turning on. Yeah. So then he sees her walk to Emily's room number 7. And so she hides behind a car. She sees the whole thing. And this is where you see another perspective. It was it was so cool to see. It's very much did you see a Vantage Point? There's it didn't do really well, but it was just there was an assassination attempt at some politician was giving a speech or something that. Yeah. And you saw a different vantage point of that thing. But it's just really cool to see each person's vantage point of this scene in room number 7.
Exactly, because we saw, Sullivan and what happened in the room. Yeah. We saw from Miles' perspective, and now we see from Darlene's perspective. Yeah.
And so Darlene is there as Sullivan gets shot. Emily, she basically climbs into the window or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And like forces Miles down the
I think
corridor.
it takes Rose with her.
No, so first,
yes, yeah.
Rose, when she's in a room by herself, she like talks to Sullivan's dead body first, and then she makes a call.
And she immediately makes a call.
And we don't know who she calls, but like she just lets them know where she is.
Yeah, I think, and this for me, of why I kind of gave it like the 3.5, is because this is when it starts turning all about Emily and Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, this was like, there wasn't, this story of all the stories grabbed me the least, I would say. Of like, compared to like Father Flynn's.
Because a lot of it was glimpses. It wasn't, it was a very much flashes and not so much like Father Flynn, you got like a full scene of his backstory. Same thing with Darlene.
Mm-hmm. So I think
part of it. I guess Miles was even shorter.
And then Miles came out of nowhere as like,
But I guess you're right. It was just like if you're going to focus the film on these two characters, it would have been nice to get a little bit more background.
Yeah, because this is when it starts turning now to get more and more and more about like all of a sudden now Emily's like like for a second at least Emily's the evil person in this whole situation, which is coming up. Yeah.
And so Emily climbs behind the window, forces Miles back into the lobby of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Rose makes a call, and then she gets called by Emily.
Yep.
So now Rose climbs behind the window and follows her to the lobby through the corridor. So like Darlene immediately goes to Sullivan's body to search for the spark plugs. Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so she finds it. She also takes his gun.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes back to her car, plugs in the spark plugs, but the car won't start. But actually, the car does start.
I think so. Yeah, something like that.
And then, but before she can pull off, you see Father Flynn pull up to the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And so she points a gun at him. She was like, "I will blow your fucking head off."
Yeah.
And then he was like, "I just want to talk. I want to, apologize about what happened in the lobby."
Yes. Yeah. And to kind of explain what's kind of going on from his part.
And so he gets in, and this is where you get his backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years prior, his brother Felix and a third accomplice basically crashed into an armored truck to steal the money or whatever. But it goes a bit wrong because of the fact that they think that they've killed the drivers of the truck.
I think they said they were okay or something. The truck was crashed in or something. Mm-hmm. There was something where it was botched, I guess. Yeah.
It was botched. And so Flynn, Daniel Flynn, decides that he's going to lead the cops away.
I think this is where technically we learn his name is Doc, not even Flynn.
Yeah. Well, his brother calls him Doc. He says his name is Daniel Flynn a little bit later.
Okay, yeah.
I just like calling him Flynn because of what is it, Tron?
Oh, yeah.
So we learn that Doc, the botched robbery.
Mm-hmm.
They collect the money. He's going to lead the cops away, and he tells his brother to meet them at the rendezvous point at the El Royale.
Yes.
And that I'll see you soon.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't see him soon. He gets caught, ends up in jail for 10 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And then while he's in jail, his memories, this is where he falls into dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think right as he's about to get out is maybe a few months before he gets out, he visits the doctor or whatever. And he was like, "You only got a few months to live."
Yeah, it doesn't look good for you.
And so this is why when he arrived at the El Royale, this is his last thing. Everybody that was a part of the robbery is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it was his plan with his brother. And this is why you see his brother got betrayed or whatever. The plan was to go to the El Royale, bury the money under the floorboards.
Yeah.
But that was only the plan between Felix and Doc.
Yep.
They didn't tell that to the third.
Yeah.
And so that's why he got killed and the third never found the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so Doc is there outside of the El Royale, and he can't because of his dementia, he can't remember what room they said they were either
4
or 5. Yeah. And so that's why he was outside sitting there trying to remember it, and then it was he just flipped the coin, but he flipped wrong. Mm-hmm. So that's why he was trying to drug Darlene, and he said not to do anything to you or anything creepy.
Yeah,
he was just trying to find a way into her room to get under the floorboards.
Yeah,
without having to hurt her.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
And so Darlene's initially well, what if I don't believe you? He was like, well, you can shoot me in the head.
Yeah.
But it was then he starts giving her the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
They realized that Sullivan was clearly some type of cop because she has his gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just you can kill me, go on the run, but when the cops find you a black woman in the woods in the 60s,
ain't gonna look good.
It's not gonna look too good.
Yeah.
You can take your chances with the murderer, Emily, because once again, we don't know her backstory at this point.
Yeah.
Or there's a third.
Yeah.
A third option. Sorry. He says, you can believe the old man.
Mm-hmm.
We can get the money
Yeah.
and work together to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what they decide, right? So they go back to her room.
Mm-hmm.
And as this is happening, we jump to, and we finally get a bit of backstory between Emily and Rose.
Yeah.
Because Emily is sitting there interrogating Miles. You see that he, like you said, he got a buckshot to the face.
Yeah.
So his face is like really scarred.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, he said something was like, "How do I look?
Yeah, how bad is it or whatever?" Yeah.
And Emily is like, "I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't remember what you looked like before,
but you're gonna have to get used to some changes." Yeah.
And so we get a bit of their backstory. So like we learn that father was abusive. They ran away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was mentioned that what's her name?
Rose
killed their parents or something like that.
I can't remember. Maybe.
Yeah. And there was also like then we get like so we know that Rose met Billy.
Yeah. Rose met Billy before Emily.
Yes.
So they like Emily and Rose.
Like, I think Rose got kind of ran. Like they lost contact, and when they got back into contact, Rose told her where she was.
I think Rose was at the military, and then left, and then found Billy.
She just seemed very young for the military. That's why I was questioning. But So Emily meets Billy because she's just like, my sister says you treat her well, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
But then she kind of sees the horrors behind it. So just like one night, Billy is like kind of preaching to his followers or whatever. And this is where we talk about the good and the bad or whatever. And it was like, you got to pick a side. And then like, so he asked Rose, he calls her Boots because that's what she was like wearing when he first met her.
I guess. Yeah.
And he asked her to pick a side. She says neither.
Yep. Yeah.
And he was like, all right. And then
he was like, all right, well, yes, that's because you know this story.
Yeah.
He was trying to set an example.
Yeah. And so like he gives the incentive, like having her, he said there's going to be a tussle between you and another girl. And the incentive is the winner gets to sleep in a big house with me.
Yep.
Or whatever. And then so now Rose is all,
she's like, oh, okay, I'm ready for this.
And so like she literally, beats up the girl or whatever and wins.
And she's vicious. She wants to keep.
But his whole thing was just like this kind of like, he says, as you guys are fighting, I'm sitting back laughing. And like kind of that's the government, that's the world. Yeah.
Or he's even saying that's like God.
Yeah.
Because he's like preaching the entire time while they're fighting. And it's going, and this, like, it was a good scene, but like I've seen better scenes that were similar. I would say, but it's still a solid scene for sure. But like the cult stuff, I think for this movie, that kind of was like, wasn't as strong. I found,
especially after talking with Tarantino, with like seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and stuff like that, seeing like how they leaned into the cultness of like the Manson murders. And stuff like that. Also, something that was like mentioned earlier. So like, as Sullivan was walking through earlier, like looking when she's like looking for the bugs on the TV, there's a mention of Nixon. So we were talking about the election. Yeah. And then there's also news coverage of the Malibu massacre.
Yes.
And I think these are the hints of talking about like once again, Billy Lee is basically a stand-in for Charles Manson. Yep. Yeah. And so like you get these parallels of the cult and like they're terrorizing, for sure, California. Yeah. And so so all while Rose is fighting this woman, Emily is there watching, and then she was like, "Oh no, I don't."
You should say, "I do not like this."
Yeah, and this is why she basically took in the middle of the night, basically took Rose from there to kind of get her to unbrainwashed from the teachings of Billy.
Good luck.
Yeah, and then this is where we see this. That's the person that Rose called before she was summoned by her sister. Yeah, and so like Miles is like pleading for his life, and this is where you get him saying because. Emily also saw that the mirrors and the camera setup, and she was like, "This is some kind of pervert hotel." Yeah, and she's like, "Well, you saw what I did to Sullivan, so like now he was like, you don't have to kill me." Yeah, because the things I've seen in this hotel, he mentions like some senator like beating up like a sex worker, and so like she had to put her stockings in her mouth to like stop the blood. Yeah.
A dude like sleeps naked with a
wolf. Yeah. Just like, so he was like, and I never told anybody any of that. So it was just like, and it was like, I don't even know your names. And this was, I don't even know how the fuck Rose heard it. Cause it was like, you see her and as Emily is interrogating Miles, like he's tied to a chair. Yeah. She's like building up the chair so she can jump on the chandelier. So she's swinging on the chandelier. Yeah. And Miles says, I don't even know your names. And fucking Rose goes, "My name's Rose."
My name's Rose. That's my sister Emily.
Well, she says the last name like Summer Spring or some shit like that. Because even Emily was like, "Don't say the last name." She was like, "Summer Spring." And that's my sister Emily, and it was like Emily's like, "Fuck."
Yep.
And then Miles was like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Like you, like that was my only kind of card.
Yeah.
And so like this is where we get Emily, because she was like, "Where are the others?" or whatever. So she goes back down the corridor to check on the rooms. Flynn's room is empty. And so she goes to Darlene's room, and she sees Darlene just standing in the middle of the room, and she doesn't know why. And then she flips on the audio, and she hears her singing. Yeah, and this is where you were saying it was like it was very dope using her music. So we see in the room, Emily can only see Darlene in the beds, right? But between the two beds, Flynn is on the floor, and he's like, as she's singing, she's like clapping to muffle. And he already has like a crowbar and a hammer. Yeah. But he's using her singing to muffle the sounds of him digging into the floorboards. Yeah. And it was like just a really dope scene.
Really dope scene. Completely agree. Really like it. But this for me, I think as an audience member, I lose all sympathy for Emily now at this point in time. Like Emily's been in a bad situation, but now I see Emily with a shotgun staring down Darlene, like thinking, should I kill this bitch or not? And I'm like, I don't care what you've gone through. You're now a bad person.
Fair enough.
So now I've lost empathy for you in this situation because you're now bad, right? And like and I think it's interesting now. Then since we're talking about it now, I'm kind of like thinking through a little bit. I was like, huh. Yeah, because now I'm like,
because you've given her like, so initially it was just like, is she just like she's overprotective of her sister, right? Like, but it was like, now you're just destroying innocent lives, and it was like, okay,
yeah, exactly. Because you're just like, well, she killed Sullivan, but I guess she kind of has a reason to kill Sullivan. Doesn't trust men. Stuff's going on, and now you're like, you're the looming threat for all of this, and I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I hope you get your comeuppance. You know what I mean?
I guess it's fair because it's like it's towing that line. I guess you get to talk about like just a character, not a good character, a bad character, just a character, and their actions kind of define where
and this action
where they land. Because it was like, I think as an audience member, maybe as the writer was saying, it was just like, well, she's trying to protect her sister at any cost, and it was like any audience member with a sibling or just loved ones can relate to that
for sure.
But it was like it doesn't justify your actions.
It does not justify. Like, I 100% get protecting your siblings. You don't need to go down a fucking hallway and try to kill a girl.
Because it was like, if they're in their room and she's in her room doing nothing, that
minding her business,
apparently doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. So like, why even bother?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, just keep living your life and doing your thing. They're clearly not involved with this situation. Why are you threatening that? But it's still very dope scene. Really cool scene to have like the threat of Emily. And then because and then Flynn and Darlene are communicating without even looking, with like just glances.
Because it was like as Darlene claps, Flynn hits the hand.
Yeah, and hey, Flynn's got rhythm. All right, Flynn can keep track of the beat. Good for him, because he may have been in prison, doesn't know music at all, but he can keep a beat. All right.
But so they're successfully. He sees under the floorboard. He sees the bag, so they retrieve the bag. And then, what's her name? Emily sees that Darlene's not a threat. Yeah. But so she goes back to the lobby to interrogate Miles about the priest. Because she saw Darlene, but she didn't see Flynn in his room. Yeah. And she's like pressing Miles, was like, where's the priest? He was like, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. But he does say again, back to trying to confess, he was like, but if you find him, can you please let me confess him before you kill me? Yeah. Yeah. So he's like resigning the fact that he was like, he's not going to survive, but he was like, I can't die with this burden
on my soul.
Yeah. And so like that's when we get Act 3. It's fucking amazing. Yeah. So like Emily, Miles, and Rose are in the lobby, and this is where Rose keeps saying too, is like when Emily was gone, like talking about, was like Miles was like, you don't have to kill me, and Rose kept saying, it's not up to me. Oh yeah, and it's not up to us. It's up to him. Yeah, and this is where we see Billy Lee, walking in the parking lot in the rain, like just dancing. There's just eloquence, and you can see like fucking Chris Hemsworth just camping it up as this character, just like fucking very flamboyant, but also like just sinister as well.
Absolutely.
So like a dangerous combo. But so Emily, Rose, and Miles are in the lobby. Darlene and Flynn have found the money, and they're about to get out of there. As soon as they leave her room, Billy Lee's followers catch them.
Yeah,
and this is where we get into Act 3.
Yep.
So like they're all tied up in the casino area of the hotel, and so there's a bag of money and also the tape.
Yes.
So the tape that Flynn had gotten from Miles' room that nobody else knew about, but except for him and Miles.
Yep. Yeah.
And so this is where Billy wants to play a game because he's just like, one, he tells Emily, "You think that you could take her from me?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he said he sees the money, so he's trying to figure out where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
And then he sees the tape.
Yeah.
And then like, so first he gives it to Rose, and she's like, "I know who that is."
Yeah.
And then they also mentioned that the man is dead.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is where the theories, like some people say it was JFK because it's 1969.
Okay.
So it's like some people saying it was JFK.
Yeah.
And the other theories that it was like MLK because like MLK, that there's stories about him and the FBI.
Yeah.
And them having like them tapping his home phone and like stuff like that.
And to see if he's having like an affair.
So like it was never like Drew Goddard or nobody from the film ever really answered the question, but a lot of like YouTube like video essays and like different articles that I found, like those were the theories behind the two.
It's either JFK or MLK
because it's clearly a political figure. Because like I said, they had mentioned the something happened with the hotel after the election, and there was also stories. There was a picture of like Marilyn Monroe on the behind the front desk, and obviously Marilyn Monroe and JFK.
I read a lot more into like the race. Like, you know, like racial.
Well, yeah. So there's like, there's a ominousness of Billy Lee talking about why the tape was more important than the money.
Yeah,
is because of the fact that if that tape got out, even though the guy's dead, it could ruin the memory of him.
Yeah, and that was the thing and he was really saying that, and he was staring hard at Darlene when he was saying.
And I think that's why
I was kind of leaning towards MLK versus JFK in this situation.
And I know that's what I was. Like, honestly, I thought it was unanimous that it was MLK.
Okay,
it wasn't until I was researching last night that the JFK kind of theories came up.
I mean, also the JFK theories, I mean, I could definitely see that too, but I think everyone knew JFK was just banging whatever he could.
He was like, what are you not telling?
JFK, it was like, if it had a pulse, you know, if they had a pulse.
But yeah, so like he's running around trying to figure out, one, about the money.
Yeah.
And like two, about the tape or whatever. So like they start playing roulette. So he asks them to pick a color, red or black, and whoever loses dies.
Yeah.
And so like, it's between Emily and Miles first.
Yeah.
And Miles is like, I mean, he doesn't want to pick a color. Or like, he doesn't get to pick a color, actually. Yeah. Emily picks it. And then Miles is trying to immediately confess.
Yeah. To
Father Flynn. And this is where Billy tells him, because obviously Billy feels some type of way about religion, government, all these different things.
He hates it all. Yeah.
But he was like, he's not a fucking priest.
He's not a priest, dude. You're like, stop it.
Yeah.
You're making a fool of yourself.
And so it lands on, I can't remember what color it lands on, but
I'm pretty sure it was black. I think Emily picked red. It lands on black.
Okay.
So which means Miles is fine.
Yeah. And then he shoots Emily.
Yeah. And Rose has no
yeah. It was interesting. Yeah. Because it was like, once again, I haven't seen this movie in like 3 or 4 years, but it was just like, I remember thinking, okay, what's her reaction going to be?
Nothing at all. Like she is.
So she is very much brainwashed into the cult that is Billy Lee,
which is nuts. And like that's a good. Like I liked that in a way, just to show like the depths that these people were like entrenched in his ideology. Crazy.
And so like now he wants to go through another round of it with Cynthia. Oh, sorry, not Cynthia. Darlene.
Yeah, Father Flynn and Darlene.
Yeah, but Darlene like kind of refuses to pick a color. And then she makes him feel like she feels small because she was like he was like, do you know who's on the tape? He asked her because she had no idea about the tape. She knew about the money obviously because that's what Father Flynn told her.
Yeah, Father Flynn didn't mention the tape. Yeah.
But and she was just like, I assume it's like some powerful man, but it was just like it doesn't matter at all.
Some
like,
powerful man who wanted to fuck or something like that. Yeah,
and she was just like basically points at Billy and said, like, you're small. Yeah. You're insignificant.
He was so powerful because it's like, you're a small, low self-esteem man who's taking advantage of other people who are broken and have low self-esteem. Yeah. That's all you are.
Yeah. And so like he asked her to sing and she sings, but it was like, he's like, I've heard better.
He was he was just trying to be spiteful.
Yeah. And then like, so he picks, so finally he finds out it's Flynn now. I'm just gonna Flynn tells him that the money was from a bank robbery and that it's his, and then Darlene's like ours. He was like, yes, it's ours.
Yeah.
He was like, she knew nothing about the tape or whatever, and it was just like they go to play roulette again, but before the ball can stop, Flynn breaks out and attacks Billy.
Yeah, he's like in the chair, but he just like stands up and just tackles him with the chair. Yeah, good old.
And so I think all three of them are on the ground at this point. I think Miles has made it like he's broken out.
Yeah,
Flynn is fighting Billy,
and Darlene's still in her chair. But
Darlene's and she's like, she sees there's a gun on the obviously the gun that Billy was using, and she, even though she's still strapped in her chair on the floor, she tells Miles like, "Help us, please." Yes. And he was like, "I can't kill any more.
Can't kill any more people."
And then this is when she goes, "How many people have you killed?" It was like 123.
Yeah.
And then it was like, then we flash back and we get Miles's backstory, and it was just like he was a very good sharpshooter as a kid.
Yep.
And then like he was in Vietnam as like a sniper or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just like he was just his commanding officer was like, just keep shooting,
kill everybody.
Yeah. And it was like I think there was some battle that he was in, and it was like when he wakes up, he's the only survivor.
Yep.
So it's like he's been dealing with the guilt of Vietnam, and then he got hired at fucking the El Royale,
and to do all these bad things,
and then forced to view all this. So he's like, I can't do any more killing. And Darlene just tells him, like, you don't have to kill anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think releasing him of that, it was like once again we saw his commanding officer telling him to shoot. Yeah. The management has been telling him to do these things. Even his father was like, So finally, somebody giving him that autonomy and that choice, and he picks up the pistol. Yeah. And what's his name? Billy's about to stab Flynn because Flynn's still an old man.
Yeah, exactly. He did the best he could, but yeah.
And so Billy's about to stab Flynn, and Miles just shoots him in the head.
Yeah, because Miles like, hey, and Billy tries to talk for like a split second and just interrupts him mid sentence, just shoots him right in the head.
And then so he shoots the other two of the other Billy's followers that are there. And another, you just see that he's a very good shooter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So he empties the clip on the pistol that he was using, then picks up a rifle.
Yeah.
Because there was two guys that Billy had sent outside to say, like, check the other rooms, make sure there's nobody else in the hotel.
Yeah.
And then so fucking Miles takes them out too. It was like fucking amazing. Like, he's a
one shot, one kill on everybody. Yeah. Or even like someone's in cover behind the chair with the pistol.
Yeah, he just shoots them too. Oh, that was so cool.
It was good. Yeah.
Miles so he takes out Billy, his followers. He leaves Rose because even he knows that she's been brainwashed.
Because he's stupid.
But he's also dumb.
I'm like, come on, shoot her in the back of the head. Don't even.
And so like after Miles shot Billy, Rose goes over to
Rose is like crying over Billy.
And so like he lets he helps up Father Flynn, he helps up Darlene, and then he goes and apologizes to Rose. He's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he gets really close, and like she takes the knife that was that Billy was about to use to stab Flynn, and just stabs Miles in the gut. And then immediately Father Flynn shoots her.
Yeah.
And then also that like this whole time the room is on fire because of like the situation that after Flynn attacked Billy.
Yeah, all the braziers and
fire fell. Yeah, so there was like this fire's been going on the whole time. And so now all of Billy's followers are dead. Emily's dead. Rose is dead. Miles, so the only ones that are left is Miles, but he's been fatally stabbed. And Flynn and Darlene. So Miles goes to the stairs, and he's like, Darlene's like, help him.
Yeah.
So like, even though Miles knows that Flynn isn't a real priest, he's like, confess your sins.
Yeah.
And it just kind of helps him confess before he passes away.
It's a really nice scene.
So that Miles can be at peace.
Yeah.
And then since the hotel is burning down, they throw the tape into the fire.
Yeah. Well, Flynn gives Darlene the option.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is, I think, another of like, it's
MLK.
Yeah, it's MLK. Yeah.
And so she throws the tape into the fire. They also throw the guest book into the fire,
so that we know.
So like, there's no evidence of who was there.
Yeah.
And then they leave the hotel, but it was like something that somebody noticed or a video I was watching. It was like they left out on the Nevada side.
Oh,
so like the land of hope and opportunity.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Cool. Yeah.
And so shortly after, we see Darlene performing in Reno. And she's like, thanking everybody for being there. She starts performing, and then
there's like no one in this audience.
Yeah.
She's like, thank you so much for being here. And it's like 20 people, but still, she's a professional, damn it. She's a great singer. She's going for it.
And so she looks out into the audience, and Flynn is there.
And that's what made it good. Yeah. Like, because like, thank God, like someone she knows is supporting her there. Yeah.
And so like they nod at one another, and then she starts singing, and then it's like the credits.
And that is Bad Times at the El Royale. It wasn't that bad of a time. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I mean, it was bad times for literally everyone.
Yeah, but as the audience, I liked it. Yes. That is Bad Times at the El Royale, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. What we always like to do at the end of every pod is review our original rankings. Mike, you gave it a 4 out of 5 originally. Are you sticking with it? Are you changing?
Yes, 4. I love this movie. Like I said, I can see the qualms that you have with it, with certain like I said, the a bit of that third act was rushed. Like finding out about Miles and his backstory seemed like it was plopped, resolved immediately.
Plop so he could be the savior.
Yeah.
But
even in some of the background with the cult stuff. But I think I was fine with that because it wasn't really about Billy Lee too much. Right.
Yeah.
But I guess I can see if there was more like a definitive answers about the backstory behind Rose and Emily, since like you said, mid-act 2 forward, they were basically the driving force of the plot.
Yeah. So
it'd have been nice to get more development on their characters, especially Rose.
Yeah.
Because at times, what's her name? Emily mentions that there was no violence. Like you can see there's a vitriol between her and Billy. She was like, there was no violence before you.
Okay.
But it was like, I don't know if that's really true. Like we didn't really get any backstory to her. She, outside of Sullivan, I think she got the least amount of
for sure
backstory.
Yeah.
And she was like, once again, so the driving force, crucial to the plot. So I can see those guys, but like I said, I love the movie. The visuals were great, characters were great. I think the story was like the twist and all that stuff. Like it was like nothing was like predictable for the most part.
No, there was nothing predictable at this movie in a good way.
Yeah. So he's 4 out of 5 for me.
Cool.
I'm sticking with it.
All right, so I originally gave it a 3.5 out of 5. You know what? I am going to up it. I'm going to give it a 3.75. All right. No, I mean, it's a really good movie. I think it also merits a rewatch. So I'm totally down to watch this movie again and then see if and what I get more out of it. I've said all of my complaints as we did the pod, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. All right. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. We are the Two Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at Two Meddling Kids on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at twomeddlingkids@gmail.com. Mike, how can they reach out to you?
On Instagram at Days from Legendary.
And if you'd like to reach out to me, I am at EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram, and Hunt.comics on Instagram for all my comic stuff. We will see you next week, everybody, with a brand new movie. Catch you next time.
Bye.